like to call to order this meeting of the Susquehanna Township Board of Commissioners. I would note that all members are present with the exception of Commissioners Johnson and Pine, who are excused. And I would note that we did discuss in executive session matters permitted by law. At this point, we'll have a Pledge of Allegiance followed by a moment of silence. I would ask that Commissioner Rothrock lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. We'll start out with petitions, complaints, suggestions from citizens. Do we have anybody that wishes to address the board tonight? Please come forward, state your name and address, and try to limit your comments to 3 minutes if you can.
Okay.
Thank you.
My name is Keith Brown, 3908 Greenwood Boulevard. I'm actually representing Susquehanna Soccer Club. I'm the current president. With me, I have vice president and another board member. We're located within Veterans Park. We've been there about 17 years, I believe. And since Mr. Reichert had left the Parks and Rec, our communication with the township has been spotty at best. It's been, I wouldn't say it's been a smooth transition. I mean, we just wanted to voice our concerns about that. We've always had a good relationship with the township. Most of our facilities within the fenced area, but then there's the shared multi-purpose field, which gets used by baseball, sometimes us, football, and some of the local private schools. Yes.
Hi, I'm Greg Feather. I'm the vice president of the club. Andrew and I came last night to your Parks and Rec meeting that was canceled apparently at the last moment. And we ran into Mr. Napper while we were here trying to find out where the meeting was. The purpose of coming last night is we wanted to introduce ourselves to the Park and Rec committee, develop a relationship with whoever we need to talk to since Mr. Reichert is no longer here, and address some of the concerns that we've had since the beginning of the year. One of the biggest concerns, normally the township comes in and winterizes our building with the water situation at the end of the year before they turn off the water main. And then they go back in. Now, the township employee will come in and undo all the water fixtures to our toilets and to basically unhook all the hoses. What happened this spring is when they turned the water main on, no one checked the building and it flooded us for 5 hours. So we had a lot of water damage that we just had to work on cleaning up because of some miscommunication and things not being done the way that they've been done in the past with our relationship with the township. Another point of concern is we had our first travel soccer game on Sunday. Baseball team was there practicing and they were hitting fly balls into our actual game on the field. And there was a little bit of a confrontation between the coach and the coach of the baseball team. Mr. Reichert would normally be the person we would contact and smooth all those things over. We want to work well with all the other athletic groups, the football, the baseball, softball. We've worked well with them in the past. We just need to have some direction from the township on get us in a room with the right people so that we can make things be smooth and continue to go smooth in the future.
Sure.
I'm Andrew Barnes, 612 Drexel Road in Lower Paxton Township, actually. I lived in Clayton Avenue for 10 years. And I'm on the board for soccer. And actually, I just would say we have about 400 kids this spring in rec and travel. It's a great opportunity, I think, for us to rebuild that relationship with the commission. You know, we're going to have a May Fair coming up here in June, an open house. We're going to open it up to the community. I think it's an opportunity for the township to be proud of the soccer club that's been there, I think, almost 20 years. And say, what can we do as a club, but then what can you guys do as commissioners to continue to build up youth activities. You know, we use the fields here, and we'd love to continue that relationship. So we're an open book, and we'd love to have you come to our board meeting. We have it at least once a month, and just here to introduce ourselves. So.
Yep.
Well, thank you for that.
Thank you.
I would suggest right off the top of my head that if you haven't already, open a discussion with Mr. Kratzer and his staff, cement that, and work things out on a going forward basis. It's only been 4 months without Bob Reichert, so there's some growing pains, but we'll get through it. love having participation by not only soccer, but baseball and softball. And that's one of the things that we value in the community. So we want to make sure that relationship stays strong. And I know the whole board, I think I speak for the whole board and, wanting to maintain that relationship. But I would start with Mr. Kratzer. That's all right, Dave?
That's fine, yep.
And take it from there. If you want to appoint a couple folks to, have a meeting, great idea. And Dave will make sure the right people from the township are there, including any commissioners who may be interested in attending.
All right, thank you.
Sound good?
Yep, thank you.
Okay. Now, one question. Who actually owns that house that you were talking about that was flooded?
We do.
Association, and it's on township land. Okay.
So I'm a little curious, Mr. Feather, if you could clarify that for me.
I haven't actually seen the agreements. That's just what's been handed down to us from the previous board members that started the club. But there was an agreement that is written, it's somewhere in our archives between the township and the soccer club. From what I understand, the Department of Corrections came in and actually built the building for the soccer club.
It's built on a slab.
It's
so
built
that
on a
it can
slab.
be removed.
And then that we have an indefinite lease that is, the payment is with paying for the lining and the field maintenance, and that lease is indefinite. That's my understanding. As far as having the documentation, we'd have to go back and look through all of that for you.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm a little unclear on in terms of if the club owns the building.
Yeah, we own the building. We're required to insure it, and
But there was an agreement in place for the township or the recreation department to take care of, turning off water
there
at
was
the end
never.
of the season?
I don't know
or-
if there was ever an actual agreement. It's just the code. It's just the policy that had been there before I'd ever been there. What that Riker had with his people that he coordinated with. It's what they would do. Like, they had keys. They have access to our building. They would come in and do this. They would tell us, like, hey, Riker would let us know, we're going to winterize the building this weekend, so you won't have water after this weekend. They would take care of it. Then Riker would
Okay.
let us know, water's getting turned on next week, so you'll have water again. They would take care of it because they had the keys and everything. I didn't even know until we got flooded that they actually undo the hoses from all the fixtures.
Sure. Right. So
I mean, that's
pipes
concerning.
don't freeze or burst.
We had no
and-
idea that we had running water from the top floor down to the bottom floor for 5 hours.
Okay.
So the structure was winterized, correct?
We're winterized by township employees.
Okay.
So,
But it's your building.
right.
Who turned the water on then?
Why is the township maintaining your building?
I don't know. Well, I don't know if it's our. If it's technically our building.
I don't know why they're doing
I'm
the
pretty
winter
sure,
maintenance on it.
I think it is your building. It's not our building, I can assure you that.
I'm sure it was a handshake agreement. Like I
Right,
said
that-
before,
That's what it sounds like.
a lot of things, happen. Bob's been here, 25 years? And a lot of
20 years,
things
yeah.
are just understood,
Yeah,
they
and
come
I
around-
think
and
the soccer
that
club in
happens.
the building was part of his genesis. And I'm new to the game as far as how it originated.
Sure, understood.
Right.
And in 5 years, there's going to be a new crop of parents and
Right.
coaches who are going to be here. So to the extent that we can, we want to memorialize things and make sure that the understandings are mutual
Right.
and beneficial. Okay, well, thank you for coming tonight.
Great,
Appreciate
thank
it. Anybody else wish to address the board tonight? Okay, hearing none. Approval of minutes, March 14th, regular meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved in second. Any comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And the March 28th workshop meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved in second. Any comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Reports of committees, buildings and grounds. Commissioner Rothrock.
Myself and Commissioner Sanders and our staff met with representatives of Solar Resources on Tuesday, April 9th. And we reviewed first the reduction in the solar project size based on completing the energy efficiency items that were recommended by Reynolds. And then we got into the issue of whether we wanted really to install panels on the roof of this building and the police building based on the fact that it's a 40-year life and we may want to do something else with the building over that 40-year period. So we talked about other options, and we determined that there was a detention basin owned by the township across the street from the Crown Point Park, which was actually it's over an acre after we looked it up. And it looked like it would be large enough to support a solar array on the ground as an alternative to this building. The upshot is that Solar Resources are going to take a look at that property, and they're going to put together a revised pro forma for our consideration, and they should have that at our meeting on April 25th. And also, there's a solar energy service agreement that has been revised and resubmitted to our solicitor for their second review of that. And that concludes my report.
Is the retention pond, is that fenced in?
Not right now.
No,
Okay.
it's not.
All right. Any questions of Mr. Rothrock's report?
Just curious, is that the area that's in front of Logan Farm Park?
Yes.
It's adjacent to, across the street from Crown Point Park.
All right, Budget and Finance, Commissioner Sanderson.
No current report, but Mr. Kratzer, we
We'll be scheduling a.
will be
yep,
scheduling
yes,
that meeting.
Exactly, yep.
So, members of the committee, just keep that in mind. It shall be very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Public Works, Commissioner Napper.
Yes, Mr. President, the Public Works report for the month of March. The Public Works Department performed limited sign work this month by replacing damaged traffic signs throughout the township. Tree removal was conducted at Stabler Park in Ward 1, and light bulbs were replaced at the Veteran Park. As a final note, Mr. President, in mid to end of April, the Public Works Department will start Boyd Park, located in Ward 2. This is in my report, Mr. President, but the Public Works Director, Nate Spriggs, would like to address the board at this time.
Mr. Spriggs.
How are you?
Good.
So the Public Works Department would just like to thank the commissioners and the township manager for the purchase of the mini excavator, the asphalt paver, the truck trailer, trench shoring, a compaction plate, and 2 leaf collection machines. So we just want to thank you for the purchase. We needed that equipment to do a lot of the work that we do here in the township, so thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Great job with it. Thanks, Nate.
I have a question.
Yes.
Mr. Napper, did you mention something, or Mr. Spriggs? Just, I thought I saw the street sweeper going around, and with the winter cleanup, I mean, it was a pretty bad winter for cinders, and how's that going?
So we're going to, we have started, we'll be out for the entire month of April. It's just sporadic cleanup, so we're starting to south end of town and working north. And we're going to be out until we all center walk around. The regular streets cleaning schedule won't begin until the first week of January. So.
Good.
Okay, thank you.
And that information should be on our website as well, right?
It is.
Correct. Okay.
All right, thank you. Health and Sanitation, Commissioner Barczyk.
Thank you, Mr. President. The next yard waste pickup by Penn Waste is scheduled for Saturday, April 20th. Please place all materials to be collected at the curb prior to 6 a.m. that day. And one other quick note, the spotted lanternfly quarantine has been extended to Dauphin County. This is an invasive pest. It threatens agriculture, and it can threaten the plants in your backyard. It's currently under quarantine in 14 counties in Pennsylvania, and you can help stop the spread by checking your car or any outdoor equipment, going in and out of different areas if you're leaving a quarantine zone. And you can manage it on your property by scraping eggs, banding trees, removing a tree of heaven if you happen to have one of those. That's a favorite host, and various chemicals. You can find more information and pictures of what to look for on Penn State Extension's website. And I know they have been in my neighborhood. They were there last year. There were folks from California that were actually going through and checking, and I think they've found one, at least one in the neighborhood. So keep an eye out for them.
All right, thank you very much. Admin and Personnel, Commissioner Napper.
No report, sir.
Thank you. Police, Commissioner Engel.
No reports.
Thank you. Fire and EMS, Commissioner Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to report that the Public Safety Committee will meet next Wednesday, April 17th. And that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Recreation, do you have anything?
I do, just briefly. The summer playground program will run from June 17th through April 2nd. Registration and parent information packet can be found on the township website. Children ages 8 to 12 are eligible to participate in this free summer program. And the parks where the program will be held includes Veterans, Edgemont, and Crown Point Park. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Planning and Zoning, Commissioner Rothrock?
Thank you, Mr. President. There was, the zoning hearing board meeting for the 3rd of April was canceled due to a lack of agenda. There was a planning commission meeting on the 25th of March. We considered the towns at Marcus Grove Phase 2B final land development plan was reviewed and approved for submission to the Board of Commissioners for approval, subject to completion of items prior to this meeting. There was also a presentation of the Sustainable Susquehanna Comprehensive Plan by Michael Baker. This was recommended for approval, was presented to the board at our March 28th workshop meeting and approved. And the Tri-County Regional Planning Commission announced that their annual luncheon is scheduled for May 2nd at the Sheraton Harrisburg Hershey on Lindell Road from 11:30 to 1:30. That concludes my report.
You going?
Maybe.
Maybe. What's on the menu?
Lunch.
Lunch. Sounds good. All right, bids and agreements. Traffic signal maintenance, Mr. Kratzer?
Yes, Mr. President. Before you this evening, we're seeking authorization to release a bid for purposes of engaging a traffic signal maintenance contractor. As I had indicated, for purposes of background, the board had authorized the release of a traffic signal maintenance RFP at its April 2017 workshop meeting. The RFP was released at the end of May, so we went through that RFP process. However, in the interim, or subsequent rather, in October of 2018, PennDOT issued guidance as a result of recent findings by the Auditor General's office throughout the Commonwealth, noting that traffic signal maintenance contracts were subject to bidding requirements, so not only a request for proposal process, but a formal bidding process. I had provided some of that information to the board for background as part of your packet. So in the interest of adhering to that guidance and avoiding similar findings here in Susquehanna Township, we're seeking authorization to release a bid to comply with that guidance.
Okay. Is there a motion to advertise this bid?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments? How will this interface, Mr. Kratzer, with our current agreement?
I'm sorry, with the current agreement?
With the current agreement with ATS?
Yeah, the agreement is I believe the current agreement has the ability to be canceled upon notice. So again, our hope is that ATS would respond to the bid similar to how they responded to the RFP request. But that'll all be reviewed prior to the formal release of the bid.
All right, great. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We want to sell a couple of cars, right?
One, at least.
One. Too many agendas here. Mr. Kratzer?
Okay. Yep. Yes, the first item that was listed on the agenda was a vehicle sale for a 2008 Ford F-350 pickup truck. The board had authorized at your March 14th meeting the advertisement of that vehicle via municipal bid. We did receive responses to that. However, it was noted that by the high bidder that there was a discrepancy, which was not a discrepancy based on the information that we had submitted. Just to give you some background, so what ends up happening is via municipal bid is you submit a VIN number for the vehicle, and there's a verification process associated with the VIN. When the VIN was submitted to municipal bid, a trim line different than the trim line in which the subject vehicle is pre-populated into the information that was posted on municipal bid. So our recommendation, we went back to the high bidder, explained the situation. They had indicated that they are going to pass on the vehicle, so the high bid is no longer a valid bid. In the interest of trying to avoid any potential conflict, our recommendation is to reject the bids and reauthorize advertisement. And we'll coordinate with Municipid to make sure that that issue is not an issue moving forward.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Any comment? Now, is that just for the 2008?
That is just for the 2008 Ford. That is correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
So on the 2013 Ford Taurus, again, at your March 14th meeting, you had authorized advertisement via Municipid. The car was previously used by the police department for its volunteer and police service program. Another existing car from the police fleet has been transitioned to use by the VIPs, or for VIPs use. As was indicated previously, the estimated value based on Kelley Blue Book for the vehicle was $4,000 to $5,000. We did receive a high bid of $4,875, which is consistent with Kelley Blue Book pricing. We recommend acceptance of the high bid.
Is there a motion on that?
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Any comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Goodbye, Ford Taurus. All right. Is that it?
That is it. Yep.
Okay. Ordinances and resolutions. Ordinance 1902, this was discussed at our public hearing tonight. This is an ordinance amending Susquehanna Township zoning ordinance. We need to go into any further detail at this point?
I don't think so, Mr.
It was the
President.
subject of a hearing right before this meeting, and it would make changes to the ordinance as described by Ms. Logan. So the chair would entertain a motion at this point.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the Towns at Margaret Grove Phase 2B. The aforesaid Ms. Logan approacheth.
Good evening again. This is a final land development plan for the purpose of constructing 26 townhomes as part of the previously recorded final land development plan phases 2 and 3 of the Towns at Margaret's Grove. The property contains 19.01 acres and is located in the R4 Residential Urban Zoning District. The plan was recommended for approval by the Planning Commission contingent on the approval of the following waivers. Number 1, Section 22-407A17 pertaining to buffer yards. Number 2, Section 22-407A20J pertaining to existing resources and site analysis plan. Number 3, 22-606.2 pertaining to rolled curb. Number 4, 22-407A20K pertaining to a conservation report. And number 5, 22-502.6 pertaining to the vertical curve K value. The Planning Commission attached the following conditions for approval of the plan, and that would be to address all remaining comments provided by township staff, the township engineer, and Dauphin County Planning Commission.
Okay, so first you're looking for approval of the plan contingent upon the approval of the waivers. So is there a motion on the waivers as described by Betsy?
I'll move that they be waived.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and enthusiastically seconded
With feeling.
with gusto. Any comments or questions?
Yes,
Yes.
Mr. President. Ms. Logan, can you please elaborate a little bit on the buffer yards and rolled curb? What the waivers exactly are for those?
I can try. I don't know if Mr. Grubik can
Okay,
kind of
either.
assist with that.
Thank you.
These are waivers that were all approved through previously when they had submitted the plan, but that plan never got recorded.
Okay.
So these are just consistent with what had been approved before. The preliminary plan for this was approved over 10 years ago, so it has to be consistent with that, and this is consistent with the preliminary plan and that previous approved final land
Okay,
development
so there's
plan.
really not an option.
They're really not new waivers pertaining to this plan, but rather a carryover
Right.
from the originally approved but unrecorded preliminary. With regard to the rolled curb, it's common practice in areas where townhouse construction is done to use rolled curb as opposed to vertical curb to prevent any curb cuts. so that basically the traffic can go from the road surface over the rolled curb into the driveway.
Okay. And what about the buffer? Were they required originally to have buffers?
Actually, there's a buffer the natural buffer exists around the
Okay.
perimeter of the property.
Yeah, thank you.
And I would just comment that this is a second and third phase of an existing project that already has the rolled curbs. So it's consistent with what's already been built there. Is
That's
that
correct,
correct?
yes.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, on the question of the waivers, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And on the plan with the conditions, do you care to describe those conditions?
Which is what's on the,
Address all remaining comments.
right,
Yeah.
correct. So they've already resubmitted, and most of the comments, at least on my end, have pretty much been addressed, and I don't know if you've had a chance to
And
look at it. We
the
just got-
plan has been resubmitted, as Ms. Logan said, and it does meet current ordinance and the requirements of recommendation from the Planning Commission.
Okay. Is there a motion on the plan with those conditions, with that condition?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Unfinished business?
There is nothing to report, Mr. President, under
Thank you.
unfinished business.
Mr. Kratzer, do you have anything?
I do not. There are no traffic studies to present for your consideration this evening.
Okay. Police, Chief, do you have anything tonight? Yes, sir. Thank you. Mr. Grubik?
Our report is in your packet, Commissioners. I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, well, the Law Bureau would ask the Board of Commissioners to consider amending the agenda to consider the First Amendment to an agreement to provide financial security to guarantee completion of improvements required by land development or subdivision plan for the Cherry Orchard project and tax parcel 62-013-177. And I'd ask you to consider amending the agenda to consider this.
Is there a motion to amend the agenda to include this item?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comment?
Yes.
Yes.
I think we're being strung along in some respects. Not that this is not a bad idea. Not that this is a bad idea. This is fine. The work will have to be done regardless, and it will be done. This is a minor extension of time, but this project has not been presented fairly, I think, in its entirety since its inception. Township was not given full explanation of the entire project, its long-term consequences, and I think this is another example of more information coming out when it's necessary to come out, not necessarily with the cooperation or the full awareness of the township. All that being said, this is not detrimental to the township because the work is going to be necessarily done. I just wish it were done a little more upfront and with better communication and good faith. That's my thought.
Any other comments on the motion to place this on the agenda? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I'd ask for a motion to approve the First Amendment, which extends the time for improvements from January 31st of 2020 to July 1, 2020. The improvements, as I understand the agreement, have to do with the roads and the fire extinguishers, the lights, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a 6-month extension to what has already been agreed to.
Okay, is there a motion to the effect of what Mr. Miller said?
I'll make that motion to allow for further discussion on it.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments or questions? Is a representative of the project here? Forward, please. State your name and
My name is David Schutte. I'm with the law firm of Pepper Hamilton. We represent the developers of the Cherry Orchard project. The request for the extension of time, or the request for the amendment to the financial security agreement, is made as a result of the financing considerations for the project. The conveyance of the property and the construction financing is scheduled to close at the end of this month. And the construction schedule showed the planting of the trees and some minor landscaping taking place outside of the 1-year period, which is set forth within the financial security agreement. And for that reason, the lender for the project requested that this agreement be amended so that the construction schedule that was approved by the lender matches this agreement, and so that this agreement would not be in breach should some minor landscaping take place after the 1-year period expires. Certainly, financing will take place by the end of this month, and construction will begin immediately thereafter. What this amendment essentially does is, again, it extends the period of time before the developer would be in breach of this agreement. However, in my experience, it is very, very rare that a municipality would pool a bond in order to finish an ongoing project, especially when it's just minor landscaping that needs to be done in order to complete the project. So that is the reason for the request. I think that that's the absolute truth and why we're here. So, and we request that you consider this.
Are there any questions, members of the board?
Yeah, I have a question on the construction schedule.
Yeah.
When does the construction schedule anticipate a certificate of occupancy would be obtained?
I believe it would be within the 1-year period. I can't tell you for certain, though.
The 1-year period, is
Within
that
the
by
within
January?
the 1-year period, but by January 31, 2019, we anticipate having this certificate of occupancy with some minor things that need to be done thereafter. But I can't tell you that for certain.
Oh, I understand that,
Yeah.
but I was just asking you what your schedule calls for.
Yeah. I mean, the schedule is to be done with construction within 1 year, but in particular the bonded infrastructure improvements that are the subject of this agreement.
1 year from what date?
From when?
One year from, well, I'm sorry, 1 year from closing, which will be the end of this month. But within the 1-year period from closing, but I imagine they'll be done by the end of this calendar year.
Well, the end of the calendar year, as I understand it, that was the original deadline that this amendment is adjusting.
This amendment is adjusting from January 1, 2020. January 31, 2020.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
That was the original deadline, January 31.
That was the original deadline under
Okay.
the unamended financial security agreement. So again, I'm not really certain what the construction schedule says about the vertical improvements and when the certificate of occupancy will be. From speaking with the clients, they anticipate it being done within this year, though.
Well, the reason I asked that question is I want to know whether granting this extension is going to delay the planned occupancy of the building.
This extension will really have no bearing on the occupancy of the building because the improvements that are the subject of this agreement are not the vertical improvements.
So why do you need an extension if you're going to completion by 2020?
We will not be completed with all of the infrastructure improvements that are the subject of this agreement, which includes the landscaping and the tree planting, which will need to take place after the winter months.
So you're talking about all exterior work? Basically, is this what you're asking here? Inside, the structure will be complete and you will be able to start receiving people?
And yes, in a perfect world, yes. But the financial security agreement concerns only those improvements that are the subject of the financial security, which is the the sidewalks, the roads, the stormwater facilities, and the landscaping. And that's what the 1 year period means. And if it's not done within that 1 year, this agreement allows the township to pull the bond and complete it for you. And so we're just asking for an additional actually, this would be an additional 6 months in order to get that done.
David, why is it referred to as a first amendment? Is that a term of art, or do you anticipate subsequent?
I do not anticipate subsequent amendments. That's a standard form that I use whenever doing an amendment to any agreement.
Okay.
Just so it's certain that.
In case there's another change, so there would be a second amendment.
I certainly don't anticipate any more amendments to this agreement. It's very rare that these agreements get amended in the first place.
Mr. President.
Sure.
I think the last 5 minutes encapsulates perfectly my concern with this project. That's all.
Any other comments, questions?
I just have one. So you're saying the primary concern is the planting grass and trees, that you want to complete that by the deadline?
Correct.
But you're extending it to July 1st.
Mm-hmm.
So surely you can plant before July 1st, so why July 1st if it's for planting grass and trees?
The July 1st date is just to make sure that we get it done and we're not in breach of any of the covenants of the loan documents. That's why the July 1st date was chosen.
Right, but you said you couldn't plant them in the winter, so why July? Why not April? Why not May?
That was the date that our client felt most comfortable with.
Okay, just curious.
Yeah.
Do you know where Mon Street is?
Oh, Moon Street.
Moon Street, yeah. Yeah.
M-O-H-N.
It's the Cherry Orchard Place legal address, 501 Moon Street.
I'm not aware of where I'm on.
Well, it's not in Harrisburg.
Okay.
It's in Steelton.
Okay.
But the agreement says Harrisburg.
Okay.
You're nodding.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not a postal perfectionist and never worked for the post office. I've just mailed stuff. But I know where Moon Street is, even though I can't pronounce it. So if this document should be approved tonight, you'd have to make that change before it could be signed.
That's fine.
And any other changes identified by our manager, solicitor, or members of the board.
That's fine.
Yeah, I have concerns about it too, and I know it's pretty much a procedural thing, but coming in at the last minute and asking for an addition to the agenda, not only this month, but also at our workshop meeting, is we try to keep our agenda published the Friday before. Sure, things happen last minute, but we can't entertain a habitual last minute operation between us and this project. And that's not something any of us is interested in. I assume your client as well.
I understand. I was discussing this with Mr. Miller about over a month ago.
That involved the last meeting. But
Right.
Mr. Miller got notification about this request. Was it yesterday or the day before?
I think Mr. Schutte understands that there's unlikely to be a second amendment to this agreement. And I did get from Mr. Schutte a copy of this document on the 26th or 27th, I think, before the 28th meeting. Is that correct?
I was discussing this with you since, I believe, March 15th, and I thought that I was on tonight's agenda due to presenting a draft of this to Mr. Miller and asking to be on the agenda. So I apologize if the procedures were not properly followed.
Well, the last we heard that there was some kind of a workaround that your parties had agreed to. And I don't want to get into the weeds here because, I'm not familiar with them and I don't particularly think it's productive to get into the weeds. But I just don't want this to happen again. And I don't want it to be a pattern.
Neither do I.
Anybody else have comments or questions? All right, it's been properly moved, properly seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
All right, please fix those typos, or at least that one typo.
As opposed, please. Yes, please.
Okay, the vote was 6-1.
Nope.
Yeah, 6-1. I'm opposed.
As opposed to, that's two.
So it's 5-2.
Right.
Right, 5-2.
No.
I am. I'm opposing.
Mr. President, that ends my report.
Beautifully done, as always. Law
Thank
Bureau.
you, Mr. President.
Okay. Moving on to school board. Mr. Fleming, do you have anything for us?
I have a couple of notes, Mr. President, and then I'll open the floor to Mr. Dietrich, if he'd like to say something. I just want to thank the students in the production of Hello Dolly last month. They did an exceptional job with that show. My family, we were able to go see it, and they did a great job. And also want to laud the faculty and students who participated in, I believe they said, oh gosh, I'm going to get it wrong, but I think 1989 might have been the first faculty talent show to provide scholarships through the high school parent-teacher organization for students. And so I think they've been doing the faculty talent show for 29 years now. And I just want to thank the students and the faculty. They opened it up to students this year, but I want to thank the faculty who participate every year and the students who participated this year. It was an outstanding show, and I think they raised $1,900 for scholarships for students from the faculty talent show. So, Mr. Dietrich, would you like to add anything more?
Commissioner Fleming, thank you. Yes, just one, a few quick announcements. April 15th, this coming Monday is our next school board meeting, 7 o'clock. Dr. Willis, superintendent, will present an update on the district's diversity and inclusion plan. Of course, more information can be found on our board docs. And also the musical, the middle school musical is this weekend. And forgive me, I'm not sure what
Annie.
Is it Annie? That's
Yes.
right, thank you. It was Annie, and I believe there's a performance Friday night and Saturday night as well. And that's all the notes that I had.
All right.
Thanks, Mr. Dietrich.
Thanks, John.
And Mr. President, that concludes my report.
right, thank you.
Our report.
Thank you, Commissioner. Authority, Commissioner Sanderson.
Thank you. No report.
Thank you. Any wheels? Commissioner Barczyk.
No report, thank you, but I do have something for Shade Tree, if I may.
Okay.
We would like to remind property owners as they begin their spring yard maintenance that all tree limbs must be trimmed at least 8 feet above sidewalks and 14 feet above roads and alleys. This helps to ensure safe passage by township emergency vehicles and school buses on roads, and of course pedestrians on the sidewalks. Thank you for your assistance in keeping our township's roads and sidewalks passable.
Very good, thank you. Communications, Commissioner Pine's not here, but Gary, do you have anything?
No, I don't, no.
We have a newsletter coming out. I guess that's going to be in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's anticipated to be out probably the middle of May. So it
Okay.
is. It's at the printer at this point. All of the content has been provided, so that is in the works,
Great.
Mr. President.
Great. Community outreach, human relations, Parks and Rec, we covered that. Boards and commissions appointment, rec advisory.
Still searching. Still searching. Do
Me
you
too.
have a fourth word?
No. Get there.
Mr. President. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, it's still searching for someone.
And we are in need of a volunteer to serve on our Human Relations Commission, our Shade Tree Commission, and we also need an alternate for our Planning Commission. These are unpaid roles. They're volunteer, but they're very much appreciated, and we really need folks to step up and help us out, help the community out, help us be a better place. Commissioner comments, do we have any? No talk out?
Mr.
All right.
President, I do, briefly. This Saturday, April 13th, there will be a breakfast with the Easter Bunny hosted by Rescue Fire Company from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Rescue Fire Company is located at 3701 North 6th Street. Please stop by and support our volunteer firefighters. Even if you do not have young children, you can enjoy pancake breakfast. Tickets can be purchased at the door. And this message may be getting a little out late for our viewing audience, but I'm hoping some of us will be able to get there and support them. We're going to stop by before we head up to the Penn State game.
All right.
So,
What time?
8 a.m. to 11 a.m.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments before we move on and pay some bills? Want to pay some bills, Commissioner?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to accept the report of bills paid. The amount of $2,009,045.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion to adjourn.
Moved?
Second.
Second? Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are out of here. Thank you.